I found a hidden camera in my own house, and the footage showed more than I could ever imagine. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I used to believe that home was the safest place in the world, a sanctuary where you could close the door and keep the chaos of the outside world at bay, where you could walk around in your pajamas, leave dishes in the sink, cry when you needed to, laugh too loud, be completely yourself without fear of judgment or intrusion. I was wrong. My name is Emma, and I'm 34 years old. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Connecticut with my husband Daniel and our 2 children, Sophie, who's 7, and Lucas, who's 5. Our house is a modest colonial-style home with white siding and blue shutters. We bought it 6 years ago, right after Sophie was born. It was supposed to be our forever home, the place where we'd build memories and grow old together. Daniel works in finance, long hours but good money. I'm a freelance graphic designer, which allows me to work from home and be there for the kids. Our life was ordinary in the best possible way. Soccer practices, birthday parties, family dinners, weekend trips to the park. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. We were happy. Or so I thought. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning in late September. I woke up earlier than usual, around 6:30, and went downstairs to make coffee. The house was still quiet, everyone else asleep. As I walked through the living room, I noticed the front door was unlocked. I froze, staring at the deadbolt in the open position. That was strange. Daniel always locked the door before bed. It was part of his nightly routine, something he did religiously after watching too many true crime documentaries. I must have forgotten last night, I told myself. I'd been exhausted, working late on a client project. It happened. I locked the door and didn't think much more about it. But then it happened again. 3 days later, I came downstairs at dawn to find the kitchen window open. Not just unlocked, but actually open, the curtain fluttering in the cool morning breeze. I stood there in my bathrobe, goosebumps rising on my arms that had nothing to do with the temperature. Daniel was already awake, getting ready for work. I found him in the bathroom, shaving. "Did you open the kitchen window last night?" I asked. He glanced at me in the mirror, razor paused against his jaw. "No. Why would I?" "It was open this morning, wide open." He rinsed the razor under the tap. "You probably opened it while cooking dinner and forgot to close it." "I didn't cook dinner last night. We had pizza delivered, remember?" "Then maybe one of the kids opened it." "Sophie and Lucas can't reach that window, Daniel. It's too high." He turned to face me, wiping the remaining shaving cream from his face with a towel. There was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. Impatience, maybe, or dismissiveness. "Emma, you've been stressed lately, working too much. Maybe you're just forgetting things." The words stung more than they should have. "I'm not forgetting things. Something isn't right. Look, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Maybe the latch is broken and the wind pushed it open. I'll check it when I get home tonight, okay?" He kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt more patronizing than affectionate. "Don't worry so much." But I did worry. Because the incidents kept happening. A week later, I couldn't find my laptop. I'd left it on the kitchen counter before bed. I was certain of it. The next morning, it was on the dining room table. When I asked Daniel about it, he said he'd moved it because he needed space to make his lunch. But Daniel never made his lunch. He always bought something near his office. Then there were the sounds, soft creaking noises in the middle of the night, like someone walking on the hardwood floors. The first time I heard it, I woke Daniel. "There's someone in the house," I whispered, my heart hammering. He groaned, barely opening his eyes. "It's an old house. It settles. Go back to sleep." That's not settling. That's footsteps. With obvious reluctance, he got up and checked the house, turning on every light, looking in every room, every closet. Nothing. No one. The doors and windows were all locked from the inside. See? There's no one here. You're having anxiety, Emma. Maybe you should talk to someone about it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I lay awake for the rest of the night, listening. The breaking point came 2 weeks after the first unlocked door. I was folding laundry in the bedroom when I noticed something odd. My underwear drawer was slightly open, and the contents looked disturbed, as if someone had been rifling through them. I always kept that drawer organized, everything folded and arranged by type and color. Now it was a mess. My hands started shaking. I checked the other drawers. My jewelry box had been moved, just slightly, a few inches to the left of where I always kept it. In the bathroom, my prescription bottle of sleeping pills was on the wrong shelf. Someone had been in my bedroom, in my most private spaces. I ran downstairs, my breath coming in short gasps. Daniel was in his home office on a work call. I burst in anyway. "Someone's been in our bedroom," I said, not caring that he was on video. He muted himself quickly, annoyance flashing across his face. "Emma, I'm in the middle of a—" "Someone has been going through my things, Daniel. My underwear drawer, my jewelry, my medicine cabinet." "For God's sake, you probably just forgot how you left things. Or maybe I was looking for something." "Were you? Were you going through my underwear?" He stood up, walking me out of the office and closing the door behind him. "Lower your voice. The kids will hear you. And no, I wasn't going through your underwear. That's a ridiculous thing to accuse me of." "Then who was?" "No one, Emma. No one is going through your things because no one is breaking into our house." His voice had risen now, too. "You're buying paranoid. You're seeing things that aren't there. I think you need to see a doctor. Maybe adjust your medication." There it was. The thing I'd been afraid he'd say. That I was crazy. That I was imagining things. That my anxiety had finally tipped over into something worse. But I knew what I'd seen. I knew what I'd heard. I knew that someone was invading my home, my privacy, my life. If Daniel wouldn't believe me, I'd have to prove it myself. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the dark living room with my phone, researching. Hidden cameras, home security systems, nanny cams. The internet was full of options, some more discreet than others. I settled on a set of 4 small cameras that could be disguised as everyday objects. A clock, a phone charger, a picture frame, and a smoke detector. They arrived 2 days later in unmarked packaging. I waited until Daniel left for work and the kids were at school before setting them up. One in the living room, hidden in the decorative clock on the bookshelf. One in the kitchen, built into a phone charger plugged into an outlet near the refrigerator. One in the hallway upstairs, disguised as a smoke detector. And one in our bedroom, concealed in a picture frame on the dresser. I felt a twinge of guilt as I positioned the bedroom camera. Was I spying on my own husband? But then I remembered his dismissiveness, his refusal to take my concerns seriously, and the guilt faded. I needed answers. The cameras connected to an app on my phone. I could watch live feeds from anywhere, and they recorded continuously, storing footage in the cloud. All I had to do now was wait. For 3 days, nothing happened. I reviewed the footage every night after Daniel fell asleep, watching hours of mundane domestic life. Daniel getting ready for work, me doing laundry, the kids playing, normal, boring, safe. I started to doubt myself. Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I needed to increase my therapy sessions or adjust my anxiety medication. Maybe there was something wrong with me, not with the house. But on the 4th night, everything changed. It was 2:30 in the morning when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the living room camera. I was already awake, unable to sleep, scrolling mindlessly through social media. Daniel was snoring softly beside me. I opened the app with trembling fingers. The living room was dark, except for the ambient light from the street lamp outside filtering through the curtains. At first, I saw nothing unusual. Then a shadow moved. Someone was in my living room. A figure, barely visible in the darkness, was walking slowly through the space. They moved with purpose, not like an intruder who'd just broken in, but like someone who knew the layout of the house. They walked to the bookshelf, ran their fingers along the spines of the books, then moved to the couch, sitting down for a moment, as if testing it. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might wake Daniel. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake, to run downstairs with a weapon, but fear paralyzed me. I could only watch. The figure stood up and walked toward the kitchen, disappearing from the living room camera's view. I quickly switched to the kitchen feed. There they were, illuminated slightly better by the light from the microwave clock. They were wearing dark clothing, a hoodie pulled up over their head, but something about them was familiar. The height, the build, the way they moved. They opened the refrigerator, the light spilling out, and that's when I saw it clearly. The watch on their wrist, a silver Omega Seamaster with a distinctive blue face. I bought Daniel that watch for our 5th anniversary. My mind went blank, refusing to process what I was seeing. It couldn't be Daniel. Daniel was right here, next to me in bed, snoring. I could reach out and touch him. I could hear his breathing. I looked at the timestamp on the video. 2:34 a.m. I checked the time on my phone. 2:34 a.m. This was happening right now, in real time. With shaking hands, I reached over and touched Daniel's shoulder. He was solid, warm, definitely real, and definitely asleep. So who the hell was in my kitchen wearing his watch? I switched between camera views frantically. The figure was walking upstairs now. I watched on the hallway camera as they reached the landing and stood there for a long moment, facing the direction of the bedrooms. Facing our bedroom. Terror unlike anything I'd ever felt crashed over me. I grabbed Daniel's arm and shook him hard. Daniel, wake up! He jerked awake, confused and disoriented. What? What's wrong? There's someone in the house, right now, in the hallway. He blinked at me, still half asleep. Emma, not this again. Look! I shoved my phone in his face, showing him the hallway camera feed. The figure was still there, standing motionless in the dark hallway. As we watched, they turned and walked toward Lucas's room. That snapped Daniel fully awake. Whatever skepticism he'd had disappeared when it came to our children's safety. He jumped out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat he kept in the closet, and ran out of the room. I followed with my phone, using the camera feeds to track the intruder's location. But by the time we reached Lucas's room, it was empty. Just our son, sleeping peacefully in his dinosaur pajamas, completely unaware of anything wrong. We searched every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. We checked all the doors and windows. Everything was locked from the inside. There was no one there. No way in, no way out. I don't understand, Daniel said, standing in the living room, still gripping the baseball bat. I saw them on your video. They were right here. I know. But how did they get out? How did they get in? I don't know, Daniel. That's what I've been trying to tell you for weeks. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw belief in his eyes for the first time, and fear. We should call the police. And tell them what? That we saw someone on camera but they disappeared? They'll think we're crazy. Then what do? We keep watching. We gather evidence. And we figure out how the hell someone is getting into our house. We didn't sleep for the rest of that night. We sat in the living room, lights on, both watching the camera feeds on our phones, until the sun came up and it was time to get the kids ready for school. Over the next week, I became obsessed with the footage. I watched every minute, from every angle, looking for clues. The figure appeared 3 more times, always between 2 and 4 in the morning. Sometimes they just walked through the house, touching things, moving objects slightly. Once, they stood at the foot of our bed for 20 minutes, just watching us sleep. That footage gave me nightmares for days. But I also noticed patterns. The figure always wore the same outfit, dark jeans, a black hoodie, gloves. They never spoke, never made noise, never turned on lights. They moved like a ghost, and just like a ghost, they seemed to appear and disappear without using doors or windows. I started researching obsessively. Secret passages, hidden doors, architectural anomalies in colonial-style homes. I measured every room, looking for spaces that didn't add up. I knocked on walls, listening for hollow sounds. It was Daniel who found it. He was in the basement, looking at the circuit breaker, trying to understand our house's electrical layout. He'd become as obsessed as I was, determined to protect our family from this invisible threat. "Emma, come down here." I found him standing in the corner of the basement, near the old furnace. He was staring at the wall. "What is it?" "Look at this." He pointed to a section of the concrete wall that looked slightly different from the rest, less weathered, newer. This was added later, after the house was built. "How can you tell?" "The concrete is a different color. And look at the seam here." He ran his finger along a nearly invisible line. "This is a panel. I think it opens." We spent the next hour trying to find a way to open it. Finally, Daniel found a small indentation near the floor. When he pressed it, we heard a click, and the panel swung inward, revealing a narrow passage behind it. My blood ran cold. "Oh my God," I whispered. Daniel pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and shone it into the darkness. The passage was narrow, rough, carved into the earth. It led away from the house, disappearing into blackness. "We need to call the police now," he said. "Wait." I grabbed his arm. "Let me check the cameras first." I pulled up the app and reviewed the footage from the previous night. I watched the figure walk through the house, then disappear from view near the stairs that led to the basement. I'd always assumed they were hiding, waiting for us to go back to bed. But now I knew the truth. They were going down to the basement and leaving through this hidden passage. But where did it lead? "I'm calling the police," Daniel said again, already dialing. "No, wait. If we call them now, whoever's doing this will know we found the passage and they'll disappear. We'll never know who it is or why they're doing this." "Emma, someone has been breaking into our house while our children sleep. I don't care about why. I just want them caught." "So do I, but we need to be smart about this." We argued for another few minutes before reaching a compromise. We'd explore the passage, see where it led, and gather as much information as possible. Then we'd call the police with something concrete to report. It was probably stupid, definitely dangerous, but we'd come this far and I needed answers. We waited until that night, after the kids were asleep at Daniel's brother's house. We told them it was a fun sleepover, but really we wanted them out of the house, somewhere safe. Then, armed with flashlights, our phones, and Daniel's baseball bat, we entered the passage. It was cold and damp, the walls rough earth and stone. The passage was barely wide enough for us to walk single file. Daniel went first, and I followed close behind, my heart hammering. We walked for what felt like forever, but was probably only 5 minutes. The passage sloped slightly upward, and I realized we were moving away from our house, under our neighbor's yard. Finally, we saw light ahead. The passage ended at a wooden ladder leading up to a trap door. Daniel climbed up first and slowly pushed the door open. "Jesus Christ!" he breathed. I climbed up after him and found myself standing in a basement I recognized immediately. It was Mike's basement, our neighbor Mike, who lived 3 houses down. The guy who'd helped us move in when we first bought the house, who came to our barbecues and Halloween parties, who Daniel played poker with once a month, whose daughter was in Sophie's class at school. The basement was finished, with wood paneling and carpeted floors. But there was a section in the corner that had been converted into something else. Something that made my stomach turn. Monitors. At least a dozen of them mounted on the wall. And on those monitors, live feeds of the inside of our house. But not from the cameras I'd installed. These were different angles, different views. There were cameras in every room. Multiple cameras in each room. Cameras in places I'd never thought to look. The bathroom, all of them. Cameras positioned to see everything. The bedrooms. Cameras in the smoke detectors, in the air vents, behind picture frames. Our bedroom. Multiple angles, showing the bed from different views. I felt bile rise in my throat. Daniel was staring at the screens, his face pale. "How long?" he whispered. "How long has he been watching us?" I approached the desk beneath the monitors. There was a laptop, multiple external hard drives, notebooks full of handwritten notes. With shaking hands, I opened the laptop. It wasn't password protected. Maybe Mike never thought anyone would find this place. The folders were organized by date, going back years. I clicked on one at random from 2 years ago. Video files, hundreds of them. I clicked on one. It was footage of me, in our bedroom, changing clothes. The camera angle was from above, showing everything. I slammed the laptop shut, feeling violated in a way I couldn't even put into words. "We're calling the police right now," Daniel said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. But before he could dial, we heard something. Footsteps upstairs. Someone was home. We looked at each other in panic. We'd broken into someone's house, and now we were trapped in their basement with no good way to explain why we were there, without revealing we'd used their secret tunnel. The footsteps were coming closer, toward the basement stairs. Daniel grabbed my hand and pulled me back toward the tunnel entrance. We climbed down as quickly and quietly as we could, pulling the trapdoor shut above us just as we heard the basement door open upstairs. We ran through the tunnel, not caring about noise now, just desperate to get back to our house, to safety. We burst out into our basement, slammed the panel shut, and stood there gasping for breath. "We need to call the police," Daniel said again. "And tell them what? That we broke into Mike's house through a secret tunnel we found in our basement. They'll arrest us for breaking and entering." "I don't care. He's been watching us, Emma, for years. Watching you, watching our children. We have to tell someone." "We will. But we need evidence first. Evidence that proves what he's been doing. Evidence that we didn't just break into his house for no reason." I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. "I'm going to go back and photograph everything. The monitors, the laptop, the hard drives. Everything." "Are you insane? He's home." "Then I'll wait until he leaves. But we need proof, Daniel. Real, undeniable proof." We argued, but eventually Daniel agreed. We couldn't risk Mike destroying the evidence if he suspected we knew. We had to document everything first. For the next 3 days, I watched Mike's house like a hawk. I learned his schedule, his patterns. Every morning at 7:30, he left for work. His wife, Karen, dropped their daughter at school at 8:15 and then went to her job at the hospital. The house was empty from 8:15 to 3:30 every weekday. On the 4th day, I went back. I went alone. Daniel wanted to come, but I convinced him to stay home, to maintain the illusion of normalcy. If both of us disappeared at the same time, Mike might notice. I entered through the tunnel, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I climbed the ladder, slowly opened the trap door, and emerged into the silent basement. Everything was exactly as we'd left it. The monitors were still on, still showing live feeds of our house. I could see Daniel in our kitchen, making coffee, completely unaware that I was watching him from Mike's basement. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos. The monitors. The laptop screen showing folder after folder of video files. The hard drives, labeled with dates and names. Not just our names. Other names too. Other neighbors. Mike had been watching all of us. I photographed the notebooks, which contained detailed logs. Times, activities, observations. Emma came home at 3:47 p.m., wearing blue dress. Sophie had dance class. It went on for pages, going back years. Then I found something that made my blood freeze. A shelf with labeled DVDs. They were organized alphabetically by name, then chronologically by date. I found the section labeled Emma and pulled out a disc at random. It was labeled Bedroom May 2021. Highlights. Highlights. I felt sick. He'd been watching me for years, recording me in my most private moments, and creating highlight reels like I was some kind of entertainment. But what made it even worse was what I found next. a folder on the laptop labeled Shared. Inside were hundreds of files, all with upload dates and usernames. Mike wasn't just watching us. He was sharing the footage online, selling it. Our privacy, our intimacy, our children's innocence, all being distributed to strangers on the internet for money. I photographed everything, my hands shaking so badly I had to take several shots to make sure they were clear. Then I heard something that made my heart stop. A car door slamming, outside. I ran to the small basement window and peered out. Mike's car was in the driveway. He was home early. Panic flooded through me. I shoved my phone in my pocket and ran to the tunnel entrance. I could hear footsteps upstairs, hear a door opening. I practically threw myself down the ladder and ran through the tunnel, not caring about the noise, just desperate to get out before he found me. I burst into our basement, slammed the panel shut, and stood there gasping, my whole body shaking. I'd made it, barely, but I'd made it, and now I had the proof we needed. I called Daniel immediately. He came home from work early, and we spent hours going through the photos on my phone, documenting everything. Then we called the police. 2 officers came to our house. We showed them the tunnel, the photos, explained everything. At first, they were skeptical. But when they went through the tunnel themselves and saw Mike's surveillance room, their whole demeanor changed. Within hours, Mike was arrested. So was Karen, his wife, who they discovered was complicit in everything. The hard drives were seized, the laptop taken as evidence. Other families in our neighborhood were notified that they might be victims too. The investigation revealed the full scope of what Mike had been doing. He'd built the tunnel years before we moved in, when our house was empty and being renovated. He'd installed cameras throughout our house during that time, hidden so expertly that even professional sweeps had missed some of them. He'd done the same thing to 3 other houses in the neighborhood, all connected by tunnels he'd dug over the course of years. He'd been selling the footage online, making thousands of dollars a month from subscriptions to his private website. Some of the buyers were local, some were international. All of them had been watching us, intimate moments of our lives, without our knowledge or consent. The legal process was long and brutal. The trial made national news. Suburban Peeping, Tom runs underground surveillance network, was the headline that seemed to be everywhere. Our faces were blurred in the court sketches, but everyone in our town knew it was us. Mike was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Karen got 15 for being an accessory. But no amount of prison time could erase what they'd done to us, to our children, to our sense of safety. We moved 6 months later. We couldn't stay in that house, knowing what had happened there, knowing that strangers around the world had videos of us in our most private moments. The videos were supposedly all taken down, but we both knew that once something is on the internet, it never truly disappears. Sophie started having nightmares. Lucas developed separation anxiety. Daniel and I went to therapy, individually and as a couple. Trust became something we had to rebuild from scratch, brick by brick. Because the worst part, the thing that still haunts me late at night, is this. How many other people have we trusted who are betraying that trust? How many other secret cameras are watching us right now, in places we think are safe? How many other neighbors, friends, family members are not who they seem? I found a hidden camera in my own house, and it showed me more than I could ever have imagined. It showed me that privacy is an illusion, that safety is a lie, that the people you trust most can be the ones who hurt you worst. We live in a different state now, in a new house that we had professionally swept for surveillance devices 3 times before moving in. We check regularly. We cover our cameras on our phones and laptops. We're careful about who we let into our home. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I still wake up with the feeling that someone is watching. I lie there in the dark, listening for footsteps that shouldn't be there, for the soft whir of a camera, for any sign that our nightmare has followed us here. And I wonder if I'll ever feel truly safe again. Because I know now what I didn't know before. The most terrifying monsters aren't the ones that break into your house in the middle of the night. They're the ones who have keys, the ones you invited in, the ones who wave at you from across the street and help you carry your groceries and come to your children's birthday parties. the ones you never suspect until it's too late. I found a hidden camera in my own house, and it destroyed my entire understanding of trust, privacy, and safety. It showed me that the real horror isn't what you don't know. It's what you discover when you finally start looking.